Margie Patlak is an award-winning science writer who's written about the environment, neuroscience, and technology for publications such as The Washington Post, The Los Angeles Times, and The Philadelphia Inquirer.
Her scientific curiosity, appreciation for nature, and love of writing all come together in her new book, More Than Meets the Eye, Exploring Nature and Loss on the Coast of Maine. She talked with 207's Peggy Kaiser about her exploration of the spiritual side of grief and the world around us.
How do you describe the book to people?
This is about what the nature in Maine taught me about the nature of life. It's also sort of a literary exploration of loss and finding meaning in life. And so it has another dimensional quality to it that goes beyond the science writing.
I want you to talk a little bit about where this childlike curiosity of yours really took hold for you.
I just always been a curious person, had lots of questions, and my father, being a scientist, encouraged me by, being eager to answer all of my questions. I find the best way to answer my questions or to learn about something new is to research and write about it. That's what I did for 30 years as a science writer. When I started spending our summers and then our summers and falls in Maine, I devoted a portion of that time to researching and writing about all these questions I had. Like, I wanted to know the basic biology of the animals around me, and what thrusts those mountains up in Acadia and determines those tides that shape us so much in Maine, and lots of questions like that. When I was writing about these things, my family kept on poking up into my writings because I had recently lost both a mother and a brother. So I think I was sort of ruminating that in the back of my mind. So when I was writing about the 3 generations of monarch butterflies that it takes to go from their wintering grounds in Mexico up to Maine, that ended up morphing into a discussion of the migrations of my family and what was passed on from generation to generation. And, I was also experiencing an empty nest. So when I was writing about the tides and how they shape our daily activities in Maine, that ended up transforming into me writing about how they taught me the fleeting nature of time and the ephemeral nature of raising a child. The nature and the curiosity and the spirituality all sort of became entwined. At first I thought I was just writing about the nature in Maine, but then I realized that I was delving into spiritual territory, and no amount of scientific research could answer the questions I was raising, which is really, what remains once the ashes are spread. So when I realized that, then I started to fine tune things. And also at that point, I realized that it would be helpful to other people who are experiencing some sort of loss. What most readers tell me is they find my book comforting.
You sort of had a series of essays that you had been working on, and it wasn't until you wrote the prologue for the book that you realized really what this book was about. Is that accurate?
Exactly, yeah. So I had been writing about what I thought was the nature in Maine, and I wrote this introduction that, much to my surprise, was describing the time when my family gathered around a bay in Maine and spread my mother's ashes. And I talked about how I was really wrestling with the notion of ashes to ashes. And here again, the curiosity pokes its head up, and it kept on raising this question of, well, what remains once the ashes were spread? So that became my kind of quest for the rest of the book, and I do finally answer that question in those essays. Things are always changing, but something always remains, and that's what I was trying to capsulize in my book. Well, what is it that remains once the ashes are spread? The more aware we become of death, the greater appreciation we have for life.
How did writing this book ultimately help you?
Some people will take time out after the loss of a loved one to say prayers to them every day and everything. But this is my way of dealing with it, which was just to turn things around in my head and sort of create a new narrative. Now that I lost so much of my family, what was meaningful in life going forward, what to focus on. Oftentimes, I wouldn't really understand those lessons that I learned from nature until I wrote about them. So the book was tremendously healing for me personally, because it put me in touch with that greater awareness and those insights that nature provides.
Again, the name of the book is More Than Meets the Eye. In addition to being a science writer and author, Margie Patlak is also a nature photographer. You can see more of her work on her Instagram feed, and we'll include a link to that in the 207 section of our website and our News Center Maine app.